Greetings, I'm Rob, aged 45, and recently, I found myself entangled in some family drama involving my ex-wife and her treatment of our daughter. Surprisingly, I had been completely oblivious to the situation. Allow me to rewind 2 decades back to when the story began. Around 20 years ago, I met Marianne at a bar, marking the start of a whirlwind romance. Celebrating my newly acquired airline transport pilot license, I was captivated by Marianne from the moment I laid eyes on her. It felt like magic, and I believed she was the one for me. We instantly hit it off, began dating, met each other's families, and everything fell seamlessly into place. 2 years later, at 27 and 25, respectively, we exchanged vows. Our proposal was intimate but significant. I surprised her with a sweet picnic, and as day turned to night, we found ourselves stargazing with a bottle of wine. It was then that I popped the big question, and she joyfully said yes. Shortly after our marriage, Marianne became pregnant with our first child, Joe, just a month into our union. Meanwhile, I was often up in the skies pursuing my pilot career, unintentionally becoming an absent father during a significant portion of Joe's upbringing. Marianne assumed the role of a stay-at-home mom while I traversed the skies. Before marriage, flying was a shared passion, but as our family expanded, circumstances shifted. My demanding pilot schedule limited our time together, and I regret not being more present during Joe's formative years. Reflecting on the past, Marianne and I were inseparable before the responsibilities of a full-time job and parenthood took over. We used to enjoy flying together, relishing the thrill of those moments in the sky. However, with the arrival of our son and the demands of my pilot job, things became challenging. I was away from home too often, realizing the toll it took on Marianne. Nevertheless, whenever I managed to be home, we made those moments count, planning romantic dates, arranging babysitters, and creating lasting memories together. But looking back, it became evident that the balance was slipping away. I deeply regret not being present for Joel during those pivotal father-son moments, like teaching him to ride a bike or shooting hoops together. Those timeless experiences seemed to slip through our fingers as my busy work schedule consumed much of my time. Football was Joel's passion, yet attending his games became a rare luxury due to my demanding job. I understood how much those games meant to him, but my commitments often kept me away. Then, a ray of light shone upon us with the arrival of little Dorothea, affectionately known as Dottie. However, during this period, it was evident that Marianne wasn't faring well emotionally. She was essentially managing everything single-handedly while I was constantly away flying. Fortuitously, I managed to transition to part-time work, allowing me more quality time with Marianne and the children. We reconciled, and it felt as though we were reliving the carefree days of our youth. Those years of part-time work were filled with joy, and I cherished every moment with Dottie. However, I couldn't shake the feeling of Joel growing distant from me. I attributed it to typical teenage hormones and didn't dwell on it too much at the time. Eventually, the need to return to full-time work arose, primarily because I was the sole breadwinner in the family. With the children growing older, especially Joel heading off to college soon, I felt compelled to support them in every way possible. I felt a compelling need to make amends for the times I couldn't be there for Joel, and one way I considered was by contributing to his college tuition. Little did I know that upon returning home from work one day, things would take an unexpected turn. After a long flight, I returned home, took a refreshing shower, and had dinner with the kids. Marianne and I then retired upstairs after bidding the little ones goodnight. It was then that she blindsided me with unexpected news. "I want a divorce," she declared. The bombshell hit me hard. "Whoa," I exclaimed, caught off guard by the sudden revelation. "Really, Rob? It's been 17 years, and I don't even recognize you anymore," Marianne expressed her disillusionment. "I don't know the person on your nightstand anymore. It used to be our thing, but now we hardly talk. Every time you come home, I welcome you with open arms, but all you talk about are your flights. It's like we've lost us in all of this. I feel like I'm just a bored housewife now." If it's all in my head, tell me now. Tell me if I'm wrong. No, you're not wrong, I admitted with regret. I've let things slip, and I'm sorry for not being the person I promised to be. It's not your fault, but I can't keep holding back anymore, Marianne confessed. I haven't found someone new, but I won't lie. I've thought about it. I've been trying to keep things together for the sake of the kids. But I can't do it anymore. Understanding her perspective, I replied, I understand. I'm sorry, Marianne. If you want the divorce to happen, I won't stand in your way. Following the separation, Marianne and I agreed that joint custody would be best for the kids. Given her familiarity with them, it made sense for them to reside with her. However, I couldn't help but feel like a stranger in their lives. Surprisingly, the divorce didn't hit me as hard as I expected. Though devastated, I realized that being away all the time had already eroded the love between us. Nonetheless, I still held respect for Marianne as the mother of my children, and I missed them dearly. Sadly, after the divorce, Marianne and I completely lost touch. Our only communication revolved around matters of child support. I relied on the kids to keep me informed about how things were going with Marianne and how they were managing at their grandparents' place. Honestly, I felt sorry for them. I even offered to help Marianne find a place to rent, but she turned down my offer. During one of their visits, the kids dropped the bombshell that they had moved in with Marianne's new boyfriend, Matthew. It was a development I knew was bound to happen sooner or later, but I hoped that Matthew treated Marianne and the kids well. However, when I tried to talk to her about it, she avoided the conversation. The strange thing was, the kids became really quiet ever since they moved in with him. It was a bit unsettling, but I didn't think much of it until Joe left for college, leaving Dottie as the only one still at home. I helped Joe out with his college tuition, and he was grateful for that. With him gone, I had to pick up Dottie from Marianne's new place, or rather, her new boyfriend Matthew's place. Let me tell you, that guy gave me a sketchy vibe. The first time I saw where they lived, I was taken aback. No judgment or anything, but it wasn't the best place. And I couldn't believe Marianne went for a guy like that. When I went to pick up Dottie, Marianne opened the door. Seeing her after so long was like a blast from the past, but she looked different. Troubled, pale, and skinny, she was wearing a robe and seemed older than her years. Something seemed off. Hey, how's it going? I greeted her. I'm okay, she replied curtly. Yeah, cool. So this is Matthew's place? I inquired. Yep, I've been seeing him for a while now, she answered, and then she abruptly called out to Dottie to hurry up and leave. That's when I heard Matthew's voice calling out for Dottie, and it felt like he was screaming at her. I didn't like the way he talked to my daughter, and with Marianne's short replies, something definitely seemed off. She had never been this quiet before. It was as if she had lost her spark. She looked even more tired when she was with me, making me wonder what was really going on in her life and if everything was okay. I took Dottie with me, and we had an awesome evening together. We settled in to watch her favorite movie, The Princess Diaries, for what felt like the 10th time, munching on Takis snacks. But I wasn't complaining. I cherished every moment spent with my daughter. For dinner, we opted for pizza, followed by indulging in Ben and Jerry's cookie dough ice cream for dessert. During our casual dinner chat, I attempted to learn more about this Matthew character. So, does Matthew treat your mother right? I inquired. Yeah, she replied simply. Wow. Is he nice to you? I pressed further. Yeah, he's okay, she assured me. That's good, kiddo. You know you can always tell me if you have any problems. Your dad is always here to protect you, no matter what. Okay. I reassured her. Okay, Dad, she responded with a nod. Then, I shifted the conversation to school. How's school going? I don't want to lie to you, and I need to come clean about something. I don't go to school anymore, she confessed. Mom told me to keep it a secret from you. She pulled me out of school and said I could continue next year. Dad, please don't tell Mom that I told you. You don't understand. It would just get me into bigger trouble. Are you in trouble, sweetheart? Is everything okay? I asked, concern evident in my voice. Yeah, everything's fine. But please, just don't tell Mom, Dottie, she pleaded. I was taken aback by the revelation. I couldn't wrap my head around why Marianne would keep such a significant detail from me. Not attending school and taking a gap year was a serious matter. I was really worried about Dottie, and I wanted to ensure everything was okay. I know, Dad, but Mom said she's handling everything, and she didn't want you to get involved, Dottie explained. Though I promised not to say anything, I needed to understand why Marianne wasn't sending her to school. Dottie was on the verge of starting middle school, and missing out on those crucial years felt deeply concerning to me. Despite providing financial support, I couldn't fathom the reason holding Marianne back. Initially, I considered asking Joe for insights, but I didn't want to burden him with our family issues. With a couple of flights lined up for the week, I decided to wait until later to delve into the matter further. I returned home determined to talk to Marianne about Dottie's schooling. After asking Dottie to go to bed early and dropping her off at Matthew's place the next day before heading to the airport, I finally landed from my week of flying a few days later, greeted by a weekend off. It had been ages since I had a weekend to myself, and I was excited about it. As soon as I got home, my phone began ringing, and to my surprise, it was Marianne. However, when I answered, it was Dottie on the line. Hey, Dad, she said. Hey, baby girl, what's up? Is everything fine? Why are you calling from your mom's phone? I inquired. Yeah, Dad, please send $3,000 for new school books, Dottie requested. Wait a minute, didn't we talk about school yesterday? You told me Mom pulled you out of school, I reminded her. Marianne took over the phone. Dorothea needs money for some new books. It's $3,000, she insisted. Feeling exhausted and frustrated, the fact that Marianne would hide something like this from me and then lie to my face made me snap. What's the money really for, Marianne? I've been sending you child support all this time, and now I find out Dottie isn't even going to school. What's happening here? Where is all the money going? I demanded, my frustration palpable. Oh my God, I'm just going to talk to you later, Marianne responded before abruptly hanging up the phone. I kept calling, but no one answered. It was late at night, and I was dead tired. Despite the late hour, I still had to pick up Dottie for the weekend. Resolving to tackle the conversation the next day, I couldn't help but feel furious and suspicious. What on earth was Marianne hiding from me? I only wanted what was best for my daughter's education, and the uncertainty gnawed at me as I wondered where all the money I had been sending her had gone. It was around 1 a.m. when the phone started ringing again. I answered the phone, and to my surprise, it was Dottie. She was crying, and instantly, concern gripped me. What had happened to make her so upset? Dad, can you come pick me up, please? She pleaded, her voice trembling. Are you okay? What's going on? Where's your mom? Where's Matthew? I asked, my worry escalating. Mom doesn't know I'm talking to you. She's probably sleeping in her bedroom with Matthew right now. Just be here and call me when you're outside, Dottie explained. Don't worry, I'm coming, I assured her, feeling the urgency in her voice. I told her to stay put and dashed out to pick her up. My mind raced with worries about what was happening as I drove like a maniac to their place, wasting no time. I called Dottie, and she slipped out the door like a ninja, ensuring that Marianne had no idea I was there. As soon as she got into my car, I gave her a big hug, and we didn't talk at all during the drive back home. Once we arrived home, I settled her on the couch and told her to make herself comfortable. I fetched her a glass of water, trying to ease the nerves and worry she must have been feeling. Sweetie, you've got to be honest with me if you want me to help you out here, okay? I said gently. When Mom and Matthew found out that I told you about them pulling me out of school, they went ballistic. Mom started chucking stuff at me. Dottie confessed, her voice trembling. What? She threw things at you? I exclaimed, shock coursing through me. Yeah, it was like a crazy storm in there. And Matthew was yelling at me, saying all these awful things like I'm worthless and should just disappear, she continued, her eyes filled with tears. What? Your mom has completely lost it, I murmured, trying to process the gravity of the situation. Mom said we're having some money problems, and things are going downhill fast at home, Dottie revealed. What do you mean, sweetheart? I asked, my heart sinking. We've been scraping by, Dad. It's been rough. We're having cereal for dinner. How long has this been going on for? She explained, her voice quivering. Joe never mentioned any of this to me since he left for college. I realized, feeling a mix of shock and deep concern for my family. I couldn't believe what my daughter was telling me. At first, it was just so hard to wrap my head around the idea that the Marianne I knew, who had always been a good mom, could do something like this. Joe never complained about her, and while she could be strict, she was never abusive. Yet, here was Dottie claiming that Marianne slapped her and threw stuff at her, while Matthew was spewing nasty, hurtful words at her like she was some piece of trash. My blood was boiling with anger and worry for my little girl. After putting Dottie to bed, I poured myself a drink and sat down feeling terrible. It hit me hard, thinking it was all my fault. If only I had been there for my wife and kids right from the start, maybe things wouldn't have turned out like this. Marianne had apparently gone off the rails, and now my kids were suffering because of it. It broke my heart to think they might carry trauma from all this. Hearing what Dottie went through that day made me wonder what else Joe had kept hidden from me. I had so many questions swirling in my head. Why was Marianne acting like this? What caused her to change into someone unrecognizable? Had my absence turned Marianne into a monster? The next day, I asked Dorothea to stay home and headed over to Marianne and Matthew's place. I was so furious that I feared I might actually punch that guy for what he said to my daughter. I knocked on the door and Matthew answered. We were expecting you. Where did you take Dorothea? He asked, his tone confrontational. She's my daughter, and it's none of your business where she is. Where's Marianne? I demanded, stepping inside the house. Marianne was there, sitting on the couch, sobbing uncontrollably. I was so puzzled. I just needed the truth at this point. Oh my God, just start talking, Marianne. Why have you been behaving this way? You laid a hand on our daughter. Where has all the money been going? And you, Matthew. I've heard stuff about you too. How dare you? I confronted them. Marianne had known me for a long time, and she knew I didn't lose my temper easily. But when I did, it wasn't any good for anyone. Rob, I'm so sorry, she finally said, her voice trembling with remorse. I made a huge mistake. You see, Matthew's in serious debt, and he owes a lot of money to someone. Initially, we used to take a chunk out of the child support checks you sent to pay off the debt collectors. But recently, they've been breathing down our necks, demanding the full amount, so we had no choice but to send it all to them. And I love Matthew. I was just trying to protect him. That's why I made Dottie take a gap year. You didn't care about our daughter, did you? All you cared about was protecting Matthew, someone who clearly doesn't deserve any of it. You put him above your own child, and for what? Do you realize what you've done? You asked. I'm sorry, I replied, my voice filled with regret. You know, Matthew, I've tried to give you the benefit of the doubt, but I can't ignore the truth any longer. You're nothing but a loser. You're a grown man living off my child support money, and for what? What do you even do all day? You confronted him. I'm working on some things, all right. Matthew replied defensively. Working on what? Scamming people and leeching off my ex-wife? Is that your grand plan? You retorted. It's not as simple as you think, Matthew tried to explain. It's pretty simple, actually. You're a deadbeat living off someone else's hard work. You can't even provide for yourself, let alone Marianne. And Marianne, you will be hearing from my lawyer soon, you asserted. When I got back home, I knew I had to dig deep and find out if Joe was holding anything back. I hadn't been the perfect dad, but now it was my chance to step up and be there for them. I could tell my kids felt let down by their mom's actions, so I had a heart-to-heart with Joe. Marianne had been nagging him verbally, but at least he didn't face any physical abuse. That gave me more reason to take action and protect my kids. I consulted my lawyer, and together we took the matter to the authorities, shedding light on the abuse and neglect my children had endured. And guess what? I finally won the legal battle and got full custody of my kids. Marianne tried to beg her way out of it, but the court wasn't buying it. She lost custody and visitation rights. As for Matthew, my gut feeling about him was right. It turned out he had a criminal record for breaking and entering, leading to his imprisonment for a year. I've retired from flying and moved into a role in management and mentorship, all with the sole purpose of being there for my daughter and son. This time, I want to make up for lost time and create a loving and supportive environment for them. My kids are my priority, and I'll do whatever it takes to give them a safe and loving home. I want them to know that they can count on their dad, and I'll never let them down again. We have a long road to heal, but I'm going to be the best dad I can be.